You want some what the fuck? I got some what the fuck for you on this Wednesday. And that is 1987's Lifeforce, directed by Tobe Hooper, director best known for, obviously, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and depending on who you ask, Poltergeist. I say he directed Poltergeist. A lot of people say that Spielberg did. I say he directed it under the influence of making it look like an Amblin film, and everyone took umbrage with that, yet nobody ever says shit about J.J. Abrams basically stealing Spielberg's entire shtick for the early part of his career. But I digress. Coming off of Poltergeist, Hooper had not made a movie since '81, and he teamed up with Golden Globus, the Cannon Group, best known for like Breakin' 2, the American Ninja movies, Chuck Norris and the Death Wish movies and all that fun trash that the Last American Virgin and all those movies that the that the Cannon Group used to make. They were huge when I was a kid. They were on the videos, Masters of the Universe, Superman 4, Alien from LA. So Hooper signed a 3-picture deal with Golden Globus. He made Lifeforce, he made Invaders from Mars, and he made the highly underrated Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. All 3 movies were pretty much failures. I love all 3 of them. Actually, Chainsaw 2 is my favorite of the series. I love the subversive satire element of it. Invaders from Mars is a remake of the 1950s B movie that Hooper was so influenced by as a kid. Karen Black is in it. Great film. And then you have Lifeforce, which is fucking bonkers. Just absolutely insane. Based on a novel from 1979 called Space Vampires. I love that title. Space Vampires is a fucking great title. My buddy Joe found a crew jacket, a satin crew jacket from Lifeforce when it was called Space Zombies, or Space Zombies. Space Vampire still, it says on there. The Hooper made some changes to the original novel. I have never read the novel, but I read the Wikipedia of it because that's the kind of research I do for this. This movie stars Sir Patrick Stewart, has his first ever kiss on screen, and it's with Steve Railsback. Steve Railsback, from dude's in a million things. He's in the Australian movie Turkey Shoot with Olivia Hussey. He's in, he played Ed Gein in those direct-to-video serial killer movies, like the one where the fucking dude who's Hawkeye from the Avengers. Notice how I did this. He played Jeffrey Dahmer, the dude who stole Pee Wee Herman's bike. Rest in peace, Pee Wee Herman. He played John Wayne Gacy, and Steve Railsback played Ed Gein. He's probably best known to people as Dwayne Barry on The X-Files, but I don't know. He plays an astronaut in this movie who's aboard a ship called the Churchill, which is a predominantly British crew, and they are doing research on the tail of Halley's Comet, which comes around every 70-some years, and the governments have created this new propulsion system which allows them to be within the tail of the comet. But hidden in the tail of the comet is this spaceship, this long phallic-looking spaceship that apparently the end of it was an avocado. So our astronauts go aboard this ship, and they find all these desiccated bat-like creatures, and then they find 3 humanoid humans in crystal caskets, and they're 3 naked individuals, 2 men, 1 woman. The woman is played by Mathilda May. Mathilda May was a French model and dancer and actress. She was 19 years old when they filmed this movie. She didn't speak a word of English, and she literally spends 90% of the movie completely nude, except for the ending when she's in diaphanous robes. They take the 3 figures back on their spaceship, and then a bulk of time it goes missing, and another ship shows up. They find the Churchill. Everyone inside is burned alive. There's a lot of really cool wire work that's done in this movie, where they're suspended, so it looks like it's weightless. They apparently use the same flying rigs that they'd used for Christopher Reeves in the Superman movies. There's a lot of cool matte paintings as well. Especially when they go into the alien ship, there's just a lot of really cool, weird matte paintings, almost like not Giger-esque, but very like 1970s pulp art kind of way. So like Mobius kind of designs to things. They bring these three, back to Earth to work on them, and they wake up and they go about sucking out people's life force. Matilda May, there's a lot of like body swapping, so it's got like a Jason Goes to Hell vibe to it a little bit. When the vampires do drain people's life force, they turn into like these cool full size like zombie puppets. The movie was written by Danny O'Bannon, who also wrote Alien. Then he had written Return of the Living Dead that Tobe Hooper was going to direct, but then when Tobe Hooper left the project to go to work on Lifeforce, he brought Dan O'Bannon with him to work on it. And there are certain elements, there's definitely like, because later on in the movie you have zombies, there's definitely some scenes that sort of reminded me a little bit of Return of the Living Dead and Return of the Living Dead 2. Steve Railsback has a psychic connection to the space girl, that's all they call her, as she's just wandering around nude. And that's really the thing I remember the most as a kid, was just this beautiful naked woman for, most of the movie. You can see the parallels between this and Dracula 2, especially the Demeter, how they bring the vampires to Earth, even at the ending, on sacred ground, where, our ending between Steve Railsback and the space girl is. So there's definitely parallels to Dracula. They basically say that these forms of vampires from outer space are what we wrote about and we know as our vampires are actually from outer space, making them space vampires. So he has this psychic connection, so he could see where they're going and when they're switching bodies and all that, because she took some of his energy and he took some of hers, so they're linked, so she can kind of get a better idea of what humans are, and he can see where she's going so they can track them. Big chunk of the movie was apparently cut out. A lot of stuff on the Churchill that Golan Globus thought was taking too long, so they trimmed all that out. And then Patrick Stewart shows up, and he's the head of a mental facility, and he's saying about why the one guy is locked up. He says he's been a naughty boy, and he has Matilda May's spirit inside of him, and makes out with Steve Railsback, and then a dummy version of his head has all this blood come out of it. It's a really cool shot, actually. And then it forms a fully blood version of her, which is really, really a cool visual. Again, like those 1970s horror magazine, pulp novel kind of looks to things. You have the full-size puppets. The girl puppet looks great. The redheaded girl, Ellen, I think was her name in the movie, when they're testing... bringing them back using electricity. That puppet's great looking. It's really well done. The opticals are not quite on par with something like Poltergeist or Raiders of the Lost Ark, but I still think they're really cool, especially for canon. And herein lies the issue with this movie is I think that, I think it was... I'm trying to remember who the person who did the music for it was. It was originally supposed to be Horner, who did a lot of the Star Trek themes, but he worked for Corman before that. Canon spent a lot of money on this, and they wanted it to be a big budget, taken seriously Hollywood movie, but Hooper wanted to make like a 50s B movie, so you can tell where the two things are batting up against each other. The score goes from sounding like a 1950s B movie to sounding like NFL Films music. The main march sounds like it would be like, on a cold Sunday in Green Bay, two titans met on the frozen tundra of Lambeau Field. It feels like it would have that, that kind of voiceover over it. So you go from them landing on Earth, the story unfolding with Steve Railsback on what really happened, his connection, people getting drained, people exploding into sand, and then on a dime, the movie goes fucking crazy. You've got everyone on Earth is turning into a zombie because there's a giant space laser that's going. And this is the first time I remember a space laser, like a fucking Suicide Squad Avengers movie kind of laser in the sky. It's souls being sucked from the Earth up to the alien ship to power it, which reminds me a little bit of Peter Jackson's Bad Taste, where they're using human flesh to power their spaceships. So everybody's who's having their souls turned out is turning into zombies. The government's out there because London is in martial law. There's like miniatures exploding. It just goes fucking crazy. One of the guys turns into a giant fucking bat monster. Yeah, it goes nuts in the third act, and I feel like that's really where the movie shines the most. Because you're with it the whole time. It's got tons of great British actors. It's got Steve Railsback, who's a great actor, aside from Nuki, but that's not his fault. Which there used to be a mentally challenged guy who used to come into the theater down when I ran in Stone Harbor, and his name was Patrick, and he refused to believe that my name was Newton, and he only called me Nuki. And then, like, last time I saw this cat was in, like, 2010, and he was older at that point. I thought he'd passed away by the time I saw him again. In 2016, I'm working on Thanksgiving at the other theater because nobody works holidays but me. And he walked in, and I was like, holy shit, Patrick. And he remembered, he said Nuki. So I was like, all right, that's my little sidetrack of Nuki. And then apparently Red Letter Media sold like a graded version of it, and it's VHS tape, and it sold for a ton of money. But that has nothing to do with Lifeforce. Billy Idol, the rock guy from the 80s, he was supposed to play one of the male vampires because Tobe Hooper directed the Dancing with Myself music video, and he asked him to be in this movie, but he couldn't do it because of scheduling. Olivia Hussey from Turkey Shoot and Black Christmas and Romeo and Juliet. She was the voice of Talia al Ghul on Batman the Animated Series. R.I.P. Arlene Sorkin, the original voice and inspiration for Harley Quinn. It was like her and the guy Bob Barker's, like all these people, but two wrestlers died. The guy who wears the mask and Terry Funk. It was like a bad week for celebrity deaths last week. 2 weeks ago from when you're seeing this. Yeah, Olivia Hussey was supposed to be in the movie, but she got confused and thought that she was supposed to be the naked girl, so she backed out because you could tell that the Cannon Group wasn't really good on, passing along good information. But ultimately, the movie, the movie failed, and that sucks because I think it's great. Aside from like the nudity and the cool special effects, I think it's a neat story that that the alien ship was hidden in the tail of Halley's Comet. In the book, it was hidden in an asteroid field. I like the Halley's Comet version better. That was Tobe Hooper's idea. The guy who wrote the novel hated that idea. He also said it was one of the worst movies ever made, but he liked it because it had a lot of nudity in it. So, yeah, if you haven't seen Lifeforce before, I highly recommend it. It's bombastic. It's canon trying to be taken seriously. When I feel like if they leaned into the camp a little bit more and all the British actors and everyone played it straight, it could have come off a lot better. John Dykstra, who did special effects on fucking everything from Star Wars and everything, he did a lot of the effects on this one. The opticals in 4K look a little cheesy, but I also kind of think that adds to the kind of otherworldliness of this movie. But I know a lot of people who hate this movie. I don't. I'm a huge fan of it. I love weird vampire stories. I love weird sci-fi. I love nudity. This kind of combines all of those things together. The weird zombie puppets and London turning into the movie Rabid with Marilyn Chambers by the end of it, and Steve Railsback having mind sex and apparently they had to, in post-production, add like shadows to a lot of shots of Matilda May because her vulva was apparently showing a bunch. So and she had no problem being nude because of being a model. But they had to keep like they could the merkin didn't look proper, so they had to keep like shaving and cutting and dyeing her pubic hair like every week for shooting to make sure that it matched and that it didn't make her look too young or too weird. It was like there's a whole making of documentary where Toby Hooper is explaining like the pubic hair situation of the movie. What a problem to have while making your art is that you have to be the person who minds the pubic hair. That's like the person who had to add digital pubic hair to Dakota Fanning for the first 50 Shades of Grey movie. Like, imagine you saw Star Wars when you were a kid and you're like, one day I'm going to make special effects, and your job is adding digital pubic hair to Don Johnson's daughter. No, I don't know. I guess tell me what your favorite, vampire movies are, your favorite sci-fi movies are. I want to try to check out some more camp stuff, some more B-movie stuff that I've probably seen before, but to talk about. But this one's a lot of fun. It's really weird. It's just got some really cool imagery in it that some people may laugh at now. There's a shot of like Matilda May's eyes where it looks like there's like circles inside of them, like the old, there's a lot of neat like visuals of like the vampire sucking in like energy, but it sort of looks like what I did with the Geeks, Girls, Guns, and Ghouls trailer, where we just blew smoke trails into a fish tank to create this like weird undulating light source, kind of ghostly style. Because I had a book about the making of Poltergeist when I was a kid, and I saw how they filmed a bunch of shit inside a fish tank to make it look kind of ghostly. So I was like, well, let's try that and just see what happens. It came out okay. You can find that video on this channel. Tell me what you think of Lifeforce. Tell me if you think that Space Vampires would have been a better title. It's a fucking great title. I want to make Space Werewolves. We'll call them Lycanauts. Because in my one script, I have the original. The reason that the moon landing had to be faked by Stanley Kubrick was because the first crew that came back was cursed by the moon and came back as werewolves, and they were called Lycanauts. I don't know. All right, I will see you all next week. Bye.